Welcome back, Chiefs fans. This is my channel, Ryan going rogue on the Kansas City Chiefs, as well as the NFL, the draft, the whole 9 yards. The Athletic Matrix is coming along, and we're going to have a lot of great stuff for you. If you want to check that out over at rogueapc.com, go ahead and in there and use the code RGR50. It'll get you half off of everything that's there. So check that out today, and you can get an idea of what we're building up to as we get all the data in for the draft. This is a rumors video because there's a lot going on around there, and it's not necessarily about smashing one or the other, but a couple of things that we can take away. I'll have something for you in the morning as well, but the big thing that we found out late last week was that the Chiefs were in on JuJu Smith-Schuster, excuse me. And JuJu in particular is a player that has a dynamic skill set. Clearly he's been successful in the league, but what we need to take away from the rumor was that they wanted to go after somebody like Kenny Galladay. Somebody that was big, could play the X, had the, the big guy kind of primary receiver outlook. And the rumor was that they were going to be in the mix for that. Turns out they weren't. And when we take a step back and we take the information that we have and find out that they were bidding pretty heavily right up against it with the Steelers, just like they were with Trent Williams and the 49ers, you can see that they've identified players that they want to go after, that they need to have, in their opinion, to make the offense take the next step forward. That's a big deal. And by focusing in on that, we can see why some of these other rumors that are out there may not fit to the description that we think. Now, this week, as we talk here tonight, this will go out Sunday night. I'm recording it a few hours early. This is the flip. This is where the switch kind of changes, and it's about getting value and fit, not necessarily, prime number one guy performance at a position. Now, we still don't know everything about the offensive line. We'll get into that when we do get more information from the team themselves. That's when we'll know. But in the meantime, the rumors still abound that the Chiefs are trying to go after these bigger wide receivers. There was an A.J. Green rumor. There was obviously the Kenny Galladay rumor. But now the Smith-Schuster himself really sets the thing that they want somebody that fits. They want somebody that can run the route tree that they want to use. It doesn't necessarily have to be a guy that they want to go target to be a preconceived physiological type person. Doesn't have to be the 6'4" receiver. That's not necessarily what they're looking for. I'm guessing that they have a couple other targets, but I think they've proven to us now that when the first wide receiver that we hear they're actually engaged with trying to pursue happens to be a guy that runs out of the slot and could run the X if he had to, but I don't think that's the best place for him. Clearly, they had an idea that they're looking for the ability to separate, the ability to run the route tree and be in the correct place. This comes back to not just the loss of Sammy Watkins, which on social media seems to be kind of a done deal. From the tone that Sammy's setting, I don't think that he's going to be back. We talked about that a few weeks ago, and it seems to be that he's confirming what we thought back then. That said, it doesn't mean that he's the only one. And by pursuing Smith-Schuster, it gives you an idea that they're looking for a specific performance. And maybe that means that they're looking for someone to take some snaps in the slot where Mecole Hardman has been living for the last few seasons. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're trying to phase out Mecole Hardman as well, but it's more difficult to replace Sammy and Mecole than it is just one. So you have to take a look, and as we then switch it over to look at not only what's left in free agency, and again, the wide receiver market is one that only has had a few big signings, and so you're getting into the more value space of that as well, but particularly at the draft. When we're going through our machinations here, and we will continue to do that here on the channel and on Locked On Chiefs just as much as anyone else, but as we do, we have to keep in mind that just because a guy has a certain size and fits the role of what a classic X is, doesn't mean that's exactly what they're looking for. I think at the end of the day, there's two things that are important in the wide receiver group, whether it's here in free agency or whether it's going to be in the draft, and that is the ability to separate in your routes, whether it's from, exemplary route running at the top of the stem, being able to cut and make distance that way, or whether it's the physical abilities to cleanly separate just by how well you cut and speed and accelerate through your top speed. But it's also the fact that you have to be able to get off the press, whether it's at the X or if you're going to see more press man, which I don't think they're going to have to anticipate in 2021 and beyond. But you never know. There are going to be teams that are going to have the ability to come up and play single high and press them. And when you do, you have to be able to beat them. Tyreek Hill showed you that last year. Now, there was also a rumor that he had been offered a restructure and he declined. There is video out there of him saying that that is the case. And so that rumor actually turned out to be true. That's not an end-all be-all, though, because I think the bigger deal is that was just trying to an attempt to stretch out the time before you had to give him an extension. I think an extension was always part of the process here, and I do think that it still is. So I wouldn't get too hung up on that. I think it's more important to focus on what the wide receiver group is going to look like when we get to the draft. And that is, again, guys that don't necessarily have to be the super size guy. They can be somebody that gets separation, that runs routes, that can do what the Chiefs want to do because they want to be creative. It's not going to be just, hey, go run a 9 and try to clear out your guy. It's not that simple in this offense. So I think that there has to be more ability than just a guy with long speed that can run the longer routes, you know, the post, the corners, the goes, those kind of things. You have to have more than that. The volume that they use the deep overs at, I think, is very key here in this offense because it gives you that horizontal aspect to the deeper routes, but they have to get back to doing that with the shorter routes as well. And that, I think, comes back into what we may see this week in the tight end group. They're pursuing some backup tight ends as well. We heard official, well, not official, but insider info that they're still looking for a left tackle as well. There's not much left in free agency like we talked about last week. But for right now, I think the wide receiver group is one that they can go get. And I think that there are some fits there. There's some fits in the draft, but it's got to be something that does what the Chiefs want to do, what Patrick and Andy want to get done. And that is attacking all levels of the defense with routes and athleticism, not necessarily with size. This isn't going to turn into a throw it up and go get the ball at the top of the route kind of offense. This is not going to be a jump ball in the end zone offense. I think some aspects that could actually pay off in some ways. There are a couple of guys in this draft class that actually remind me of Chris Conley. But at the end of the day, we have to take what we know about the offense and where it's going and apply that to the group, not just because somebody's a physical specimen that fits the preconceived notion. Now, that's not the only thing that's going on, but that seems to be right now what I think is still the most target-rich environment for a position group in free agency is the wide receivers. And then, obviously, it's a very deep class in the draft. That's going to be important as well. But there are other things going on. We're going to talk. I'll have something tomorrow for you. Looks like pass rusher and maybe even DB are still going to be in the free agent aspect, and then we're going to get into the draft. So I hope that you guys had a great weekend. I'll be back in the morning with something different, and we'll have some of these shorts all through the week, knock on wood. Q&A on Monday night, don't miss that, as always. And then Dan's going to be back this week, so I'm looking forward to that. So make sure that you like and sub and hit the bell notification so you find out what comes next, like in the morning. Thanks for watching this one. We'll get with you tomorrow.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.